Shalom, shalom. Welcome to my video talking about Parashat Acharei Mot and Kedoshim. It's a double portion for this week. It is respectively the 29th and the 30th portion out of 54 Torah portions. The words Acharei Mot means after the death. It talks about the death of Aaron's sons, the two priests who were killed because they brought unholy fire. And Kedoshim is holiness and the holiness after death. What can we do to be saved, to be holy after we die? This is what these chapters in the book of Leviticus is all about. My name is Barney de Klerk. I'm not a Torah teacher. I'm a student. I love sharing what I'm learning. So I hope to encourage you to learn or to read Leviticus 16 to 18 for yourself. And let's look at a few things that is of particular interest to me. In Leviticus 16 verse 1, we open with this word string, Acharei Mot, after the death of Aaron's sons, from which the Torah portion takes its name. It's followed, the text, biblical text in Leviticus is followed by two sons of Aaron. And the last letter of each one of these three words makes another word. It is Yod Yod Nun, Sufit. It's one of the funniest words in Hebrew. Yod Yod Nun, and it's pronounced Yayin, and it refers to wine. And this is where we deduct that the reason why Aaron's two sons died is that they brought unauthorized fire to the tabernacle because they were under the influence of wine. It links also to the prophet's portion in Amos that has a link back to Noach and his drinking of wine as well. And that gave rise to his fourth son, Canaan, and that son's son, Cush. The reading about Aaron's two sons' death and this text as well, we can deduct that the unauthorized fire they brought, they may have entered into the Holy of Holies with fire, which may relate to burning incense in the holy place before the high priest go in. They died with the very best of intentions, and even our best intentions may lead us to eternal death, because if those intentions fall outside of Adonai's will, remember how the prophet said, my people die because of a lack of knowledge? That's from the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6. He then went on to saying that it's because they rejected knowledge that they die from a lack of knowledge. It is not that Adonai is this vengeful God who's looking for you to make a mistake so he can zap you. It's not like that at all. He loves you dearly. And the entire book of Leviticus is a testimony about how much he loves you. But if you reject the knowledge of him, then you are not free from the consequences of your decision to reject him. Rejecting the knowledge about Adonai or bringing unauthorized fire in the case of Aaron's two sons is akin to worshipping the golden calf. Even though it was called a feast unto Adonai, the golden calf is not his way. We have to do Adonai's ways in Adonai's things in Adonai's ways. We have to do God's things in God's ways. If you reject his ways, if you reject his Torah, as some pastors teach their flocks to do, then they skate on thin ice, because you're not only rejecting the Torah, you're rejecting Adonai, you're rejecting Yeshua. And the road to hell is paved with good intentions. We have to do Adonai's things in Adonai's ways, not according to our own intentions. Then the scripture goes on to teach us about the institution of Yom Kippur on the 10th day of the 7th month. And the Yom Kippur goats is a interesting, complicated ceremony, but it's exactly the same ceremony as we spoke about a week ago, about the 2 pigeons that are taken as a sacrifice for the leper that has been healed, that's been cleaned from leprosy. The pigeons apply to the individual on the individual scale. The goats apply to Israel on the national scale. And the pigeons were specifically for tzara'at, or biblical leprosy, but the goats apply for all sin, not only tzara'at. The text in Leviticus 16 verse 21 indicate 3 different layers of sin that we should be aware of. The first one is avon, which literally means guilt. It's translated in the TLV as iniquities. The second one is pesha. In Hebrew, it literally means willful sin, and it's translated as transgressions. That's when you know something is wrong, but you still go ahead and do it. And the third layer is chatat, which literally means to miss the mark or to miss the target. And it's translated as sin, and that is unknowing sin, that you do things which you're not aware of that it's wrong at the time. And so 3 very different types of transgression. We spoke about the incense altar with the death of Aaron's 2 sons, that maybe that's the unauthorized fire they brought. We know from the book of Revelation that the incense altar in God's throne room represents our prayers that's burned before Him as a pleasant aroma. In the Yom Kippur service, which Adonai teaches in this case, is the only time when the high priest should enter into the Holy of Holies, but he must first bring or light incense on the incense altar, because effectively as the Holy of Holies fills with the smoke and the aroma of the incense, the high priest, as he goes into the Holy of Holies, is covered by prayer during the Yom Kippur service. And that Leviticus 16 verse 12 to 13. Moses then in Leviticus 17 verse 6, as a South African who loves to braai, to make barbecue, it's part of our culture, I do my best not to read these verses, but I guess in the end I have to, because it's written. Moses established the tabernacle as the meat kitchen for the entire nation, and he does so in order to put an end to sacrifices burned for goat demons in ceremonies which included prostitutes and sex orgies. That's Leviticus 17 verse 7, and is followed by strict instruction not to eat or drink any blood. Presumably drinking of blood was therefore part of those goat demon ceremonies. The relief comes a little bit later, or in verse 7 there, where we learn that the reason everybody has to slaughter their animal which they want for a barbecue or a braai at the tabernacle is to prevent sacrificing meat to idols. And so for me, as somebody who loves to braai or to make a barbecue, I can rest assured I don't have to travel to Jerusalem to buy slaughtered meat there and travel back to South Africa before I can braai it on an open fire. No, as long as I don't sacrifice it to goat demons, but pray over it and dedicate it to Adonai Eloheinu, then it is acceptable in his sight. In Leviticus 19 verse 16, we see a very graphic picture in Hebrew. The word picture already exists in English, but the Hebrew picture is even stronger. In English, you can see in your mind's eye, it's about a tail tattler, a busybody going up and down the street with juicy gossip, and who tells it to whoever will listen. But the Hebrew metaphor used, ta'amot al-dam, literally states that you shall not stand in your neighbor's blood. It's not referring to physical murder, but to character assassination, lashon hara, or we call gossip, or about other people, assassinating their character, defamation. Telltales, therefore, is much more than merely juicy stories for entertaining the neighbors, but it's comparable to bludgeoning your neighbor to death while standing in a pool of his blood. That is the Torah language. The overriding message from this parashat and from Leviticus and from the entire Bible is that you have to love your neighbor as yourself. It's specifically written here in Leviticus 19 verse 18b, the last sentence in verse 18 from Leviticus 19. And it contains an interesting train of thought that starts from Leviticus 19 verse 17. It says, don't hate your brother in your heart, which means that it's okay to get angry. Hate is a strong word, but you need to address your anger and hurt in an open, friendly, unthreatening, peace-making way with your neighbor after he hurt you. It concludes with, don't hate your brother in your heart, instead firmly rebuke him. And the idea is to clean the air. If there's an argument between you and your neighbor, clean the air in a loving way. Don't let the anger fester in your heart and turn into hatred. That's what it means. And then it's followed by, don't take vengeance, because we know vengeance belongs to Adonai, who sees the wrong done against you. And you can read about that, Romans 12, verse 19. And he concludes again with saying, don't bear a grudge, but forgive and give guarded second chances to people. When you pray the Lord's Prayer, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, you pray forgive my transgressions as I forgive those who transgress against me. You de facto saying to God, only forgive me to the extent that I'm forgiving others. It's a very dangerous prayer to pray. I normally try to be clever and say, please do a better job at forgiving me than what I am doing at forgiving others, because otherwise you're praying for your own damnation. But the fact of the matter is, the instruction to forgive is here in Leviticus 19. And Yeshua did not change anything. He was teaching us about the Torah. The passage after that forbids incest, which probably may have been an offset of the goat demon ceremonies as well. And it goes together with condemning child sacrifice to Molech, condemning homosexual practices and others deviant sexual practices. These things defile the land, Adonai said, and will result in the land vomiting out the people who are guilty of such practices. Presumably, the people who claim that the Torah has been done away with are in favor of these practices, child sacrifice and blood drinking and sex orgies, Because without the Torah, how would we ever know that these things are wrong? If you think that the Torah has been done away with, how would you feel if your spouse is having an extramarital affair? Because without the Torah, if the law is done away with, that will be hunky-dory, right? No, the Torah is not done away with. It's valid and it will endure as long as heaven and earth endures. When Yeshua returns, he will rule the world according to Torah law. The greatest battles for purity in people is in our sex lives and in our diet. And it's because we are carnal in our fallen nature. Sexual intercourse and eating does not defile us, though, to be unholy per se, Yeshua said. But it is what's going on in our hearts. Our hearts, the vile thoughts, the deviant things that comes up in our thoughts from our heart, those things are defiling us. God created us as sexual beings. To be in a sexual relationship with your spouse is holy. It is after the relationship, the marriage relationship between Adonai and Israel. It's a covenantal relationship. It's holy. The unholiness comes from deviance from that. It's when the holy things becomes polluted by demonic influence that it defiles us. And it defiles us through the lust that wells up in us. I hope that this will entice you to go and read these chapters in Leviticus 16 to 18. And until you do, and until we speak again next week, I pray that Adonai Eloheinu will bless you and keep you, that he will shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. I pray that he will lift his countenance, his provision upon you, and that he will give you shalom. Shalom, shalom.